feel like a well-oiled machine now because we've been podcasting back to back. So, first question, who is Bill Wuyek?
Who is Bill Wuyek?
Yeah.
I'm an artistic person, entrepreneurial, tech geeky, family guy.
And how did District Leather, how does that fit into Bill Wuyek? And how did that all come to be?
And there's a lot there to unload. But my whole life I've been, like I said, artistic, musician. I got my first guitar when I was 9. Just taught myself. Starting from age 13, I was in bands all the way till I was 26, and had the opportunity to kind of be a class warrior. Come from a situation where my parents didn't go to college. I was the first one in my family to have the ability to do that, and so I entered the professional world as a consultant. Didn't even know what a consultant, like what it meant to be a consultant when I got the job. I was like, okay, yeah. I'll work on spreadsheets. Cool. Yeah. I'll do whatever you need me to do. So when I do things that I'm really passionate about, I'm in 100%. Like everything else kind of falls to the side. That's a problem for me, actually, because if you look around the shop and at home too, there's so many unfinished projects, either because I get distracted or find something else I'm really interested in. I bet that's a common theme with a lot of people you talk to.
It's a common thing.
It's very common.
And with ourselves. We spoke to Paul Hamler
yesterday,
who bought all the machinery. He makes miniature tools and stuff like that. He's wicked good. And he bought all the machinery, started making pool cues, sat them down in the corner 24 years ago. And he's adamant he's going to finish them.
Yeah.
Adamant he's going to finish them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was it. So you started as a maker, didn't you? So we're obviously here in District Leather Supply.
Right.
But you started as District Leather.
District Leather, yeah. So in that professional career, like I kind of lost touch with I still play guitar every once in a while, but part of me was kind of longing to get back to that, because of spending my days in spreadsheets and in like boardrooms and stuff, and and putting together work that was just kind of empty. I do consulting work, type up this really nice thing, and presentation and go in a binder on a shelf somewhere, and like I don't know, it didn't feel great doing that. Actually, I pre-ordered the very first Apple Watch,
right?
And there was an option for a leather strap for $150. And at that time, I was looking to get a different briefcase for work. I had this really douchey Toomey briefcase that was kind of falling apart. And there's a brand called Saddleback here in the U.S. And their motto is they'll fight over it when you're dead. And something about that just really like struck a chord with me, and really got into the brand. Things are a little different now, but got into the brand and saw they sold scrap bags for $5 a pound on the website. And I was like, you know what? I like this idea of like durability, long-term goods. Let me buy a bag of scrap. I'll figure out the tools to use. I'll get them on Amazon or whatever, and I'll try to make my own leather strap for this watch. So yeah, that's how I first got into it. I got the tools in the leather, and the strap is embarrassing. It's totally abysmal. I still have it, and
Nice.
The Apple Watch too. I'm gonna put it in a shadow box one day. But and so just like the perfectionist side of me, kind of ran into this, and I wanted to get better and better. And there weren't that many resources out there at the time. This is 2015, so 8 years ago next month. Because I think it was April. So found what I could online, and just kept going. Went to my local leather shop here in Atlanta, bought a whole bunch of supplies and tools, just kind of figure out what they did, and also to figure out what kind of aesthetic I wanted for my leather goods and what kind of techniques I wanted to use and all that. And so when I was on the road as a consultant, I'd travel with my suitcase with a cutting mat, a leather tool kit, and some leather every week. And after our team dinners ended at 9, I'd go to the hotel room, make a new wallet from 9 to like 4 a.m.,
Nice.
work on new designs. And it was just really, really meditative and peaceful, and kind of gave me an outlet to decompress, because I was really stressed. It was a huge project I was on at the time, and I needed something to kind of divert my attention and focus and lower my blood pressure, and that it absolutely did that. So I sacrificed sleep for that, but mentally, I felt a lot better, and also to have created something tangible and durable at the end of each night was really special. Even though it sucked, it was really ugly, and eventually, so they got better. But I pushed myself to improve my craft. Eventually met up with some other crafters, kind of formed this mastermind group, and we chatted on WhatsApp. There's 12 of us all around the globe, so the chat was running nonstop.
Nice.
Some folks in Australia, UK, and a bunch in the US.
How important do you think that having that chat was when you started out?
Critical.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here without that group.
And how did you get that group set up? How did that come to be?
Yeah. One of the crafters I first interacted with on Instagram, through Instagram. Instagram has been like the hub of all of this, the genesis, I think, for much of this. So commented on this maker's thing or asked a question about what they did, and we just started talking, and became friends. And then they knew somebody, and then I knew somebody. We asked them if they wanted to join this group, and eventually, like gravity just kind of pulled people in, and we each had kind of different styles, and learned from each other. And somebody might learn about like this product, like here's this cool thread from Japan that not many people know about, and here's where I get it. Here's this cool leather I'm trying out from Italy, and some of the things you see on the shelf in the back came from that group.
Wow, even now.
Yeah,
that's cool. So, have you found all the workers in the leather community are very community over competition based? Sounds like the ones that you found initially definitely were.
Initially, definitely, yeah. I think generally speaking, yeah. I think it seems to me the majority of crafters in this now, they're open and receptive to sharing information. That hasn't always been the case for sure, and there definitely are still some people that kind of stay guarded.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because almost everything is out there now. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, that's kind of my view. I'm like, everything's out there anyway. So if you don't answer it, they're just going to Google it or YouTube it. You know, it's there. Like people make a business out of showing you how to do stuff. It's a lot of people's whole business.
Yeah.
So was it the leather work that you were attracted to, or was it just initially, or was it just the chase of perfection, or the creativity side, or was it like specifically like leather work? Or was that just a happy coincidence of seeing how expensive the strap was?
I think it was a happy coincidence, but there's so many aspects of leathercraft, and I guess it transcends to other crafts as well. But like there was a problem-solving component of it, so it scratched a certain itch in my brain that maybe other things couldn't.
Right.
Coming up with new designs, patterns, something that's unique, attractive, functional, and I just hadn't flexed that muscle before. So that was part of it. And then there was something really cool about, I didn't know anybody else that did leather work at the time.
Right.
And it was kind of my thing. It was very personal. And I think a lot of people feel that way, like they're the leather person, in their circle. And that's a special feeling. And it was also this kind of secret world that I got to learn about, and it runs very wide and very deep. And so for a serial hobbyist like me to find something like that, where it's like bottomless and endless, I dug in and really latched onto it and just explored. And that's, I'm here today in large part because of that. And I love to learn about everything. And I don't know, I'm still excited about it, even after being completely drained and stressed out. But I still love it, and can't imagine life without it.
And with everything that you've achieved in the leather space, do you still feel that it's bottomless and endless? Do you still feel that there's loads of places to go for you?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Maybe not as endless. I think I can maybe see some of the boundaries now. But that's just a perspective thing.
Yeah.
All it takes is one person to explain something to me about how they did something, what they saw, like, oh my God, that's a whole new thing. So,
yeah. And so you talked us through it before, but for the sake of the podcast, talk us through that. We kind of touched there on it was a side hustle to the point where it was a through the night side hustle, to then you were working out your basement doing it because you were making it first before you were doing the supply side, which is really important to your story, because from everything you've just showed us, and we'll obviously be publishing all that stuff that was seen as well, a lot of your offerings are, all of your offerings are directly driven by the issues you had.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about your making experience and then how that has driven the whole supply side of it.
Yeah. So I guess, and maybe part of that answer picks up where I left off in that story is, perfectionism was driving me to just like grind and crank and turn out a bunch of stuff. And I have a bin at home in my basement that's probably got 60 wallets in it that are like, you might look at it and be like, oh, this is like, to me, they're kind of garbage, but just, I guess remnants and evidence of that process. But with that group and refining my crafting, I guess, abilities, prowess, knowledge, techniques, finally got to aesthetic that I really liked and material that I liked working with, and decided to start a brand and start selling stuff. And that's when District Leather was born. I think that was early February 2016. Came up with the logo, bought the domain, set up the Instagram account, and just started putting things out there. And sold things kind of piecemeal. It was a nice little side hustle. And at that point, it was more just about funding my hobby.
Right.
And I saw the potential for a business, but it was really just about having something sustainable that wasn't like taking money away from my family and lifestyle. But steadily, I got more customers, and I, being opportunistic, kept pushing, and finding new ways to generate revenue from that. Ended up getting a few wholesale arrangements to where the side hustle was really lucrative, and to the point where I had a pretty convincing argument to make with my wife. That was a very uncomfortable conversation, but it's basically that I wasn't really happy with my corporate job. I really like doing this other thing. It's going to be the best thing for all of us if I'm able to pursue this and focus on being happy and leading the family. So the proposition was I'm going to do independent consulting half-time and leathercraft half-time, and whichever one kind of takes off. And I may have nudged leathercraft a little bit.
Yeah.
But so I hit that hard. And how I got into supply, though, was, and to your point about what's driving a lot of the products that I have, even just 6 years ago, if you wanted to try some leather, you had to buy the full hide. If you wanted to try something, you had to buy a bunch. Or I think there was not really a good retail space for leather crafters for anything that wasn't just basic crafting stuff. Yep. So I had amassed a huge shelf of leather, probably like 25 grand worth of stuff that I just impulse bought. And but at that time, I didn't know if I was going to use it. Maybe that leather was something that would work out, and it was for my aesthetic. It would work for my aesthetic. But quickly realized as soon as I got something that it really wasn't for me. Wasn't really going to use it, and couldn't return it. Like that's just not how it works. Yep. So decided to free up some capital, sell that stuff, and some extra tools that I bought as well. And that pretty quickly turned into what looked like a viable business opportunity, setting up a supply business. And the foundation of it being in my mission was to help other crafters avoid getting into that situation where, maybe they're not in a situation where they can get out of a $25,000 hole. Yeah. I mean, it was hard for me. It's crazy now that I think about it. Whatever I could do to make the crafting journey easier for folks, where they could spend less time trying to source materials and figure out how to get rid of stuff that they don't need, that they may have bought, and focus on the craft itself. And if they want to start a business, focus on being a business owner, and spend less time trying to source materials and deal with headaches of import and things like that. So
that's great.
And that's, to this day, what that's kind of the fundamental principle of everything that we offer through our shop. Buy in the quantities that you need. You don't need to overbuy, and try things out until you find your groove, and then
It's amazing, isn't it?
we'll help you as you grow.
Such a gift to give to someone.
Aye, to give, because what you're really giving them is access to
Yeah.
leathercraft, isn't it? You're just giving them the access to it, and equally with you having such a strong maker background, you're giving them some of that expertise as well. You know, even and actually you could talk about that, the blanks that you sell. You know, it's not the usual 12 by 12 blank, is it? You've thought about it.
Yeah, exactly. So at the time, you know, in the early days, if there were some businesses selling square foot panels, not many,
Yep.
and not a large variety, but I did get a couple of them, and what I found is, you know, most small leather goods are rectangular, you know, wallets or even watch straps are long. So a square is not really ideal for making small leather goods. Excuse me. So I did the math and found a way to get a square foot in a rectangular shape.
Yeah.
And I decided to give that a push, and it worked out really well.
Yeah.
So just, having the maker experience, expertise, and, you know, now that's led to me having empathy for other crafters. And that gets down to everything, including shipping. Like overpacking stuff, making sure everything is sealed in polytube just in case it gets left out by a mailman in a snowdrift or something, you know?
Yeah.
I'd be so pissed off as a crafter if I got leather and it looked like it wasn't handled with care. And like everything in my shop that we sell is precious to me, you know?
Yeah.
I value it. It's not a commodity. It's not just like, hey, I'm going to sell you some stuff so I can pay the bills. It's, I want you to get what
you want.
Yeah.
And then and that's just talking about the product as well, but you also offer the services, don't you? Because one thing that just instantly made sense to me, well, first off, it was the reels, you know, the thread reels, buying it in bulk, putting in the smaller stuff, but the machinery options that you offer, and people can buy time on that machine or purchase blanks off you, and because some of those machines are, you know, tens to hundreds of thousands of pounds. You know, it's just it's inaccessible to the majority of people. So that's a service you guys also offer as well. Has that been quite a popular service for you guys to offer?
It's picking up, and the services aren't something that we actually advertise a lot.
Right.
It was meant to be more of a focus, and then we had kind of got sidetracked a little bit. But yeah, we've got the cutting machine, and that thing with all the upgrades and everything was $140K. The splitter, the red one out there is $70K, and some of the other machines. And that's not a brag. It's just like, those are very capable kind of large scale production machines. And, I bought those and some of the others with the goal in mind to help crafters, whether it's somebody with a small business or just a kitchen counter crafter, like outsource the non-value add activity of your leather goods.
The bit that doesn't need your hands to touch it.
Right.
Yeah.
Use that to buy back your time.
Yeah.
Because like time is the one thing you can't buy, and this is the closest we get to it.
Yeah.
So spend a little bit extra money with us to get your leather split to the right thickness. And that's also like a corrective measure. You bought leather from whatever place you got it, and oh crap, it's too thick for this thing. Send it to me, let me split it.
Yeah.
Maybe cost you $10, $15 or whatever. And get it to the point where it's usable, so you're not wasting that leather.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
And the cutting too, like if you have a pattern, I don't know, maybe you need a couple hundred and you don't want to buy a clicker and die setup, or even a better scenario is you have a bunch of stuff you want to prototype. And you don't want to spend the time hand cutting, tracing patterns, or the expense of getting dies for a whole bunch of different designs. Like, let us help you with that.
What would your view have been at the very start if someone had these services on offer?
I would like to say that I would have really appreciated it and taken advantage of it, but I think I was so eager to just own this stuff, and I think a lot of crafters are. Like, I wanted my own splitter because I wanted the freedom and the flexibility to split my own leather, and that's a like purely emotional response. And if you look at it from a business standpoint, it really doesn't make sense. It makes sense to outsource. You know, except that it's going to take a few extra days, and you're going to spend a few more bucks to get to the same point and not have that credit card debt or have that machine loan or whatever. Maybe it doesn't look as cool on Instagram, but So I think, and that's part of I need to do a better job going forward of really helping folks understand the benefits of outsourcing those kinds of things to us here. And one of the things that's really different about us too, I talk about that empathy for crafters and also my crafting knowledge and the time I've spent like developing my digital design skills and capabilities. So like, I'm with you. I'm next to you as a crafter, and like I've gotten a few designs where I've proposed some changes to somebody's design because I kind of saw a couple steps ahead what kind of trouble they're going to run into.
Yeah, and that's what's quite important about, and what I want to communicate with this podcast and the stuff that we put out. Yes, you're a supply company, which you could look at as, oh, it's not strictly a maker, but you're a successful supply company because you're a maker.
You're a leather worker for leather, you know.
It'd be so easy for a sales guy to sit in here and go, you should export this and this, because they're making the dough out of it, like as you are. But you understand why you should do it. What about other makers that maybe have the kit? You know, if there is makers that they maybe invested, would you if you were in that position back then, would you rent out your machine time as well? You know, we know a couple of makers where, like you, when you were doing your furniture, you had the CNC machine, and we'd occasionally rent out time on that when it was sat empty. Is that something you would recommend people to do, and how would they go about that?
Even I'm reluctant to rent time on my machines here, and some of that is because of business liability, people getting hurt. Also, like damaging a machine and having downtime.
Oh, sorry, I don't mean rent it out as someone else operating it, but I mean use that as an additional income to your making business.
Offering a service.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. You wouldn't want someone running your machines.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah, I'm still trying to open my mind to that idea because it is a way for us to make some money here. But yeah, as a service. So let's say somebody has a small splitter and they could offer a splitting service. Yeah, I think that's definitely a viable alternative source of income or additional source of income. There is some pressure that comes with that, not screwing up somebody else's stuff. And I feel that every time somebody mails us leather, that I don't also stock here like, oh God, what happens if the splitter decides to eat this leather? Because it's not a guaranteed, there's no guarantee that when I put leather through that splitter that it comes out perfectly every time. Yeah, sometimes it hiccups and the density of the actual leather changes. And anyway, so it may not be as easy as some people think it would be. Yeah. But if somebody's interested, it's worth giving it a shot. And if it helps other makers, especially in like a local community, like if it's something where somebody could drop it off at your house or whatever, why not? If it helps others, why not? Give it a try. Yeah.
And what about that liability side of things? How do you guys deal with that? You know, it is obviously scary, you know, but what's your journey been with that? You obviously have very good quality machines. That must be reassuring.
You know? So liability in terms of outsiders coming in?
Liability in terms of, you know, if you're taking other people's leather, because you're not just splitting your own leather, are you? Right. People can send leather to split to you or to pattern cut, and that must have been quite a sketchy thing to get into from the start, you know, but, oh God, what if it does go wrong?
Yeah, and so I guess that's, when I talk about us not really promoting those services, that's sort of a remnant of that fear. I think about as a crafter, like I started hand sewing everything, but my goal was always to use a sewing machine, but I wouldn't use a sewing machine for my products until I got the quality of the stitching to the level of my hand sewing or something that was pretty comparable to that. So when we got the splitter, I think it's 4 years ago now, like it was probably 6 months before I even announced that we could split anybody else's leather.
Really?
Because I wanted us to screw up on our stuff first and, you know, climb that learning curve. And even to this day, like there will be some maintenance issues. The splitter was down for a couple weeks ago, and we have mail-in splitting on the shelf. And I feel this incredible weight and guilt not being able to get somebody's stuff split. It's a huge responsibility. So, I need to get over that and just put the machines to work. But I do really care. It's not just like pumping stuff through a machine.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, that's been very noticeable since we got here, that you genuinely do really care about it. And then what about the dunks and the custom shoe? Because that's something you came to a bit later, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so just loved.
I do. I think naturally I have a passion for footwear, and that stems from my childhood and also having big, weird feet. You know, eventually wanted to make my own custom shoes, which, I don't know, a few years ago was completely far-fetched, and I had no idea how to pursue it. But eventually found a path to be able to do that. And just like on my crafting journey as a wallet maker, watch strap maker, I encountered a ton of obstacles getting the supplies and the knowledge for shoemaking. And there was an opportunity to help kind of shorten the path for other makers to get to the point where I had reached by offering supplies and getting sharing education that were hard to come by before. So been pushing hard on that for almost 4 years. And I'll tell you, like, becoming a father for the first time, top of the top of my list for life experiences.
Yeah.
Then my next daughter, then getting married. Yeah. But then when you, for the very first time, lace up a pair of shoes that you made yourself, man, that is like the coolest feeling in the world.
Yeah.
As a leather crafter, first time you throw a wallet that you made in your pocket, that's a cool feeling.
Yeah.
First time you put on a belt that you made, awesome, and other people could see it. But shoes,
Yeah, it's next level.
yeah, there's something really special about that. So I still get kind of goosebumps when I think about it.
Yeah.
And I want to share that with other people.
Why do you think that's so high up your list, shoes?
I don't know, maybe because of, I don't know, I would hope that it's just inherently awesome enough to justify that, but also maybe that, like, that personal connection, like I mentioned, having the big weird feet and always wanting to make them, and not always being able to find things that I wanted. So it's extra special when I lace them up, something that I made. But yeah, I don't know. It's got to be both of those, I think.
Yeah.
Just awesome.
Yeah, it is just awesome.
And you just showed us some stuff. The shoemaking's kind of grown legs, hasn't it? So you're not only providing. So you guys provide what is it? Flaxes, you call them, flax. The shoe molds.
Lasts.
Lasts.
That's
So you started providing lasts. Was that directly because when you started doing shoes, that just wasn't another thing that wasn't available?
Yeah, domestically there weren't many options,
Right.
and especially for sneakers and specific sneakers that we work on and do patterns for. So it was possible to get them, but it was like you have to ask a friend how to get them, or you had to like really search hard, and it was still kind of an industry, not insider thing, but you had to know somebody basically to be able to get them. And in this case, I did know somebody who helped me get some dress shoe lasts from a manufacturer in Mexico.
Okay.
And that's how I became exposed to them, and that was before I even got into sneakers, so it was like 5 years ago. Anyway, so yeah, the shoe lasts. I just totally trailed off there. Yeah, my bad.
That's all right. So you started doing the lasts, and that's kind of accompanying the supply side to you actually making shoes, because you do still make your own custom dunks and stuff as well. But as you just showed us before we started this, that's kind of grown legs in itself again, hasn't it? With regards to your courses, are you able to talk a little bit about the courses and what you're trying to achieve with that?
Yeah. So in addition to supplying the supplies and giving shortcuts to folks for those, a big part of it is education too. And so I've felt since the very beginning of District, even in my basement or the supply business, there are three pillars to the business. There's supply, services, and education. So we've got the products.
Was that from the start?
From the start, like it was crystal clear.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's quite insightful.
Yeah, it's very.
You should give yourself credit for that. There's not a lot of people that start from the very start thinking, I want to be able to educate people later down the line.
Well, thank you. And I think part of that was this clarity. When it was just District Leather and I was just making leather goods, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out, okay, what's my mission statement? What is going to differentiate my leather goods brand from somebody else? What can I do that's unique and different? And there's this concept of red ocean and blue ocean, or blue ocean theory, red ocean theory, that's what it's called. But essentially it's finding a marketplace without much competition. I'm oversimplifying here, but that a red ocean has blood in the water, lots of competition. So find a blue ocean where you can be unique, stand out.
That's quite cool.
Kind of carve out your own niche.
Yeah.
So I constantly think about that too. Like actually I don't think about it anymore. That's just like how, I don't know, the framework for everything I do is how can we be unique and different and stand out from other folks, and what is the competitive advantage we have over other businesses? And a lot of it comes down to me being a crafter. But anyway, back. So with District Leather, I struggled. Like I really couldn't, as much as I tried, I couldn't come up with a like clear definition of all this. And I was just another maker brand, and I loved what I did, and I thought I had cool products. But when I got into the supply side, it just all clicked. Like I think because I went through the exercise over here and hit walls, when I got here on the supply side, it just made sense. And I thought about things like consumer life cycle, and that's really what those three pillars tie into. You have the supplies, the services, the education, and the education being what, if you look, I'm getting really detailed.
No, it's good. This is exactly what we want.
But if you look at, let's say 100 crafters or 100 people get into leather craft, and I don't know, 80 people spend $100 to try it out. And after a year, or everybody spends $100 to try it out. After a year, 80% of those people fall off. They just decided it wasn't for them. Yeah. So now you've got 20, and I don't know, maybe 10 of those will spend $500 the second year. Maybe 10 will spend $2,000, right? And then some of those are going to fall off. Blah blah blah. So some of that has to do with what you're crafting. Maybe you get bored of making belts and wallets, and you get into a market that's just really competitive or price sensitive, whatever. Anyway, so that education part of the three pillars kind of gives you a little kick, a boost to get into something else, some other sort of discipline in the craft, where then you could get additional supplies or different supplies, and then use different services to help you out. So it kind of keeps everybody, or keeps folks in that consumer life cycle longer.
Ah. So actually the education side of it becomes a motivator for all the other parts of it as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So would you recommend that to all makers of all disciplines? Do you think that's something that's really helped you grow this business?
Education, so the answer is yes, I think so, but I think I lack the context for other maker, like I think about knife makers and woodworkers, so perhaps. I could say I think it's worked out well for us.
Yeah.
And education also doesn't just mean like having a class or having online courses or whatever. It could mean like on our live sales, I try my best to nerd out and explain how stuff is made. I go to the tanneries, I see the machine that does this and that leads to this, and like really just try to share all the knowledge that I've picked up along the way about the industry, and maybe it sparks something with a maker and sets them down a different path.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
And so again, it doesn't need to be like formalized and paid or anything like that. It could just be, I don't know.
Do you think it helps, like you educating other people, do you think it helps qualify yourself as a maker, like personally? Do you think if you can, like certainly in your live sales, and I want to talk about them more in a bit, but do you think you being able to provide that information is good personally, to be like, yeah, I am pretty good at this? Because a lot of makers do suffer from that. It'd be like chasing perfection and stuff is a bit of a double-edged sword where it's pretty self-deprecating. You know what I mean? Do you think being able to pass on and educate, do you think that kind of reinforces how good you are at what you do?
I think so, and I struggle with that a lot because humility is really important for me.
Yeah.
I don't like to brag, but one of my managers in the consulting world told me that like, I forgot exactly how he put it, but basically he said like, you have to brag sometimes because like what you don't realize is people aren't paying attention sometimes, and
right.
They're not going to notice.
Yeah.
So talk about yourself and talk yourself up, but there's a line there, right? So I'm not going to be like, I know everything, listen to me, here's exactly how you do it. And I try never to BS. Like if I don't know the answer, I want to tell you like, hey, listen, I don't know. Yeah. I'll find out though, but here's what I do know. But I think that's really important. I want people to trust me, and it was the same thing in the consulting world. I want to be a trusted advisor, know enough to help you out and set you down the right path.
Yeah. And then the live sales, which I'm quite interested in. The live sales there, the way you sell your stuff. Can you talk a little bit about that and how other makers could maybe implement that, or how other makers, like, would you recommend it to other people for a start? Like, what does one of your live sales compromise of?
I think if you're a supplier, yeah, live sales are really, really good. I think it, how's that for a weak answer? Live sales are good.
So what does one of your live sales look like at the moment? How does that all go about?
Yes, let's start with that. And then, so the format now, and it's evolved over the past 2.5 years.
Right.
I can't believe it's been 2.5 years we've been doing this. So I realize how much practice I've had speaking now, because it's 6 hours a week for 130 weeks.
Wild.
Just finding ways to talk for hours. But so essentially, we do live sales on Instagram. We got a little studio set up back there, and we have, for the most part, we offer products, part of our inventory that's not available on the website. So it's sort of exclusive to the live sales. And that makes it kind of sticky too, because if you're going to tune into a live sale, you're going to see stuff you wouldn't see on our site.
Yep.
And there's some surprises sometimes, really cool random stuff.
It's a good idea.
It's a nice window into the business, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Connect to you.
Yeah.
And I was going to say that's been a big part of it, in terms of connection, in two ways. Number one, I get to present myself, and like you talked about knowledge, and talk about just things, and educate others, and prove that I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And then also there's actually like a community that's grown around our live sales, and people connect in the chat during the live sale. And I've heard about groups that exist.
I bet they look forward to your live chats or your live sales.
Yeah, I like it because it delineates you from the sort of normal buy and supply, e-commerce,
It's unique selling
Amazon
point.
FBA kind of, it very clearly delineates District Leather Supply from that. And it maybe still gives you and you tell me if I'm wrong here, it maybe still gives you the personal connection with your customers that you would have had as a maker, but you're a supply shop.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're right.
So, and what does it look like? So it's stuff that are not available on the website, so like one-offs and stuff like you said to us earlier. How many pieces would you sell in that, and how long do these go on for?
Yeah, and for the most part, it's non-website stuff, and every once in a while we'll do promotions, like a special deal and some things we want to move. But it depends. It depends on how tired I am.
Yeah.
So we start the live sales at 8 p.m. Usually like 8:30 p.m. We try to get our West Coast friends involved.
Right. Of course, there's a time difference as you go across the US. I forget how massive the US is.
So, it depends on how tired I am. Usually I'm throwing down a couple Red Bulls either before or during. And then that factors into like how long-winded I am, because I try to make it kind of entertaining too. Try, that's the operative word there. Yeah. Maybe there's some storytelling or bad jokes, or I don't know. I get really in depth about certain leathers, or like maybe something's really complicated to explain. I don't know. Spend 10 minutes trying to sell one piece of leather. Yeah. But when we're in a groove and everything's clicking, in 2 hours, I don't know, we'll sell maybe 50 pieces, 60 pieces at best.
Wow, okay.
It's so cool.
It's like last night we did, we kicked off around 9, and I sold from my personal stash. So that's another struggle as a maker, business owner. Like I own the candy shop. Yeah. And so very often I'll run across some stuff in an odd lot that we pick up from a tannery, and I'm just like, this isn't even going to see the live sale. I'm just going to put it in my stash. Right. And so I've got a vault, and I don't know, every 6 months or so I'll go picking through it, and I have to be realistic. Like, I'm just not going to get to work with this. I just need to let it go. Someone else is going to make something really cool with this, and I have to just appreciate that. Yeah. So
better to see a picture of someone making a cool thing knowing you've sold it than it's still to sit there. Yeah. And so I appreciate that.
And so that helps me recover from the grief of letting it all go.
Yeah. That's hard.
So last night, it was probably 40 things for my personal stash. It was one of the biggest clear outs I've done in a couple of years. It was lots of random, like sparkly, shiny leather, a lot of good stuff for sneaker makers. And we also sold a bunch of t-shirts, and we also do like pre-cut wallet kits and watch straps and things like that to save makers some time. So. Yeah.
And how do they buy it through the live sale? Like how do they, so you're obviously out there putting it out. How do they actually purchase it? So if someone else was listening to this thinking, I'm a maker, I've got a massive personal stash or a bucket full of wallets that maybe aren't 100%, how would they go about implementing that?
Yeah, I mean, it's taken us a long time to get that whole process worked out. And I'm really proud of the fact that I can run a live sale by myself now.
Oh, really? So it's just you?
Like a year ago, there's 3 people out there. It's me and 2 other folks. So it's a little bit slower, but it still works. So, we have a computer monitor up at the top of our screen.
Yep.
I'll share some screenshots with you. And there's like a SKU number followed by a price. And then we have the comment stream in a window that you can see on as you're watching Instagram.
Yeah.
It's for transparency, so you could see the winners that we call out. So if you're the first person to type in the item number, you get the deal.
Right, okay.
And then if somebody hasn't bought something from us before, we ask that they DM us with their contact info and everything.
Right.
And so we keep a database because it's really hard to tell who
That
somebody
must be
is
hard.
based on
That's-
their Instagram name sometimes. So
So they would send you, this is my Instagram name, but this is all my real world details.
yeah, so we can email them an invoice the next day.
Right. And do you ever have people just backing out of it, or is it
All the time, yeah.
Right.
I think in the first year we did it, we never really gave it a name, but it's like the deadbeat rate.
Yeah.
There's a much better name for that, I'm sure. But it was like 2%. So out of every 100 things we sold, maybe or 100 customers, 2 people would back out.
That's a lot higher than I thought you were going to say. I.e. a lot higher on the sales front, than I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to be like, 30% of people don't ever come through.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. That seems really reliable.
I think part of that has to do with the community aspect of it.
Yeah.
The trust and everything, I think.
Yeah.
And is that community aspect of it pulled straight over from District Leather? Like the people that are in your community, I know it's obviously grown, but the people that are in your District Leather supply community, were they also your maker followers that have pulled straight over?
You know, that's hard to say now.
Right.
So when I launched District Leather Supply, I did leverage the District Leather following. I think at that point I had 9,000 followers, maybe 8.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say how many of those were like general consumers versus other makers.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I speculated it was at least half that were other
Right.
makers. But 4,000 makers, that's quite a few. I don't know. It's hard to trace that back, but
yeah. Oh, okay,
to
fair
know.
enough. Yeah.
but I think
2%, like converting 98% of the people in the live sale, that's wild good.
yeah, and I think it slid down to probably like 6% deadbeat now. It's still really not that bad.
It's not that bad at all.
It's not bad at all. That's really good. I'm impressed by that. I think that I was not expecting you to say that at all.
Yeah, I think it's a community aspect, and also like we finished up the live sale at like I don't know, usually like 10:30 Eastern.
Yeah.
Then one of our guys, Benny, amazing guy, he sends out the invoices the next morning,
Right.
like starting like 9:30. So it's like when that person goes to done with the live sale, do whatever, go to bed, and then when they wake up, they find the invoice.
So what's
Right.
your like work-life balance like? Like you're saying you're here till like 10:30. When do you start?
Yeah, it depends on the week,
Yeah.
and it's an emotional roller coaster, just
We
like
know
I'm
that.
sure a lot of other maker businesses
Yeah.
are, business owners. So yeah, it really depends on the week. If I relax too much over the weekend, I find that spills over into Mondays.
Yeah.
And honestly, and I'm not afraid to admit this, I have a couch in my office, and maybe on a Monday, I just need to relax and I'll chill out till like noon,
Right.
and then I'll get to work. And I know it's frustrating for some people, but I just need that.
Yeah.
This is hard, and I got to stave off burnout. I had that in my consulting life.
Yeah.
It's good that you know to do that though.
It is. It's good that you know to do it, and I think it's something that people can take from this podcast as well as a lot of other things already. But yeah, if you need that couple of hours on the sofa, do you know there's this weird narrative that you're only going to make it if you just work, and if you just kill it every day. You get up on a Monday. If you can't get up at 5 o'clock, you're never going to make it. It's like, man, some people need to sit on the sofa for a couple of hours and chill out, get their brain into it. Because ultimately, if you burn out, then it's all wasted, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
Like,
no
how
use.
many people have fallen foul of working that extra hour later every night and then ended up with months off? Whereas you taking that extra couple of hours on a Monday morning to just
Yeah.
easy
Sets you up for
easy.
the rest of the
Yeah.
week.
Yeah, and sometimes it has to be a sprint, and sometimes it's a slow grind, and you're just pulling that plow because you're just getting that work done that you don't want to do. So
Yeah.
I keep referring back to my consulting days, and it really is important. It's so formative for this. But one of my first bosses, she was really into golf. She was like global principal of our practice. And I'd never played golf until I got this job. I was 24, and it was in DC proper. And there was a golf course, I don't know, like 15 minutes away. And when it was slow and we didn't have project work, she would say, go play golf. Keep your BlackBerry on. You had a BlackBerry back then. In case I need to reach you. But when we have downtime, take advantage of it, because when we're grinding, we're grinding.
That's quite a good outlook. Yeah, I appreciate that. I think I'd appreciate a boss that said that. Yeah,
Yeah, you would.
So like I was saying there, sorry, just before I went to the toilet, do you still view yourself as a maker, or do you view yourself as a businessman now?
Yes.
Great.
I don't know if I do it intentionally, but I still incorporate making into a lot of what I do for the supply business. So I just handed you leather stickers.
Yeah.
Now, it's not rocket science, but I designed the shape in Illustrator, tested it, made sure it was the appropriate width for my stamping machine and the foil. Like, a lot went into that.
Yeah.
A lot more than it may appear on the surface, like testing out the adhesive for the backing, like the cutting machine and everything. So, like, that scratches my maker itch, that kind of
Nice.
thing. Every once in a while, I'll take a commission for a pair of sneakers. I've got a pair over there that I've been working on for like 6 months. I'm embarrassed. But designing new, we sell patterns for certain things. So like we have a crossbody pattern and wallet patterns and things like that, watch strap patterns.
You should get a wee crossbody. You like a crossbody bag?
I do
Get a little
like a
pattern for a crossbody.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I'll show
Make
you
yourself one. Yeah,
come
show
back.
us them. That'd be cool.
I'll show you how to make it.
That'd be sweet.
Make it yourself. So I get to like exercise those muscles on the supply side. It's not as hardcore, making as I did in the past, but I'm
Yeah.
okay with that. I still get to do some of it.
But you like, and it's important to talk about as well. You still like operate the machinery, and although it's a supply business, it is absolutely not like an e-commerce buy sell supply business. It's because you could still operate your strap cutters, you still operate your knife, you still operate all that stuff as well, don't
Yeah.
you? So you are still making as such. You're just not making products directly with your name on them or your.
I mean, I'm producing. Yeah. I mean,
That's it. You're producing or manufacturing rather than like making artisan single handmade products now. Yeah.
Right.
But
So
it's
yeah,
still-
definitely still hands on and
Yeah.
still, yeah, for sure.
And where do you see it all going? What's the
next thing?
what's up next?
I think I had a certain vision maybe a year ago, and with things changing quite a bit, with the COVID bubble ending, people starting revenge travel last summer.
Yeah.
I love that term, revenge travel.
Yeah, it's the first time I've heard it, and it immediately just clicked there. Because we've just done it. We're like, we ain't travelled anywhere in ages. We're doing 5 weeks in America.
Yeah.
So as happy as I am for everybody in the world, like it has had an impact on our business.
Right.
And there are ways that we can counter it, but I'm just trying to get settled into this kind of new reality for us. We were on such an aggressive growth, I shouldn't say aggressive, steady growth trajectory for 4 years. And then all of a sudden, like it's flat and maybe going down just a little bit. So I'm trying to reassess and look at what really is the core of the business. What should we be focusing on in all aspects? Labor, money, relationships, supply relationships, my travel, like where do we go? Who am I talking to? And try to tighten up. So my kind of talked about this before, my goal of global domination in the leather industry has is much more tempered now. So got to kind of figure out what we look like a few years from now. What I'd like to be a part of, though, and already headed down this path to a large extent, is what we're seeing with the sneaker making crowd. is, I mean, we're reaching a point of saturation where, like, I look at the crowd of wallet makers out there now. There's a ton of people making wallets, and it's like kind of the easiest entry point into leathercraft.
Right.
And not to discount it or oversimplify, but essentially, like, a lot of times you take rectangles of leather, square it, and you sew them together, and you got a wallet. I mean, that's how I started.
Right.
Shoes are much more complex, but at some point there will only be so many customers for $1,500 pairs of sneakers, trainers.
Yep.
And I think we reach a saturation point in that scene before we will, like, wallet making. Because wallet making, everybody carries a wallet, and if you can make a $25 wallet, you could sell it.
Yeah.
But do you not feel that? So yes, I absolutely agree with you. You will reach a saturation point, but do you not feel that there's a buy-off between the saturation point of a £1,500, the profit and the margin that's in a £1,500 pair of sneakers versus the saturation point and the profit that's in a $25 wallet? Do you know what I mean? Like, you'd have to sell way more wallets to reach the same saturation point. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Then maybe, I don't know, different way to look at it. So you have a whole bunch of people selling $1,500 sneakers. Eventually someone's going to sell it for $1,400.
Right.
And then you start a race to the bottom.
Yeah.
And then somebody's selling a 600 pair of custom sneakers when your material cost, even before labor, is like $250.
Right.
And then you're spending 20 hours making the pair. So at a certain point, like, it doesn't really make viable business sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
So I don't know, and maybe there's equilibrium there, right?
Yeah, of course.
Eventually get to a price point where more consumers would be willing to pay for a sneaker, and a custom sneaker, maybe it's $800 or $900, and there's still enough meat on the bone for makers to do it. But and then maybe at that point, that's where outsourcing our services makes more sense to folks, so they can make more pairs per month. But anyway, we'll find out.
Yeah, of course.
I'm just really excited that so many people have gotten into shoecraft and sneaker making, and I feel like we are responsible for a decent chunk of that, and I'm really proud of that.
That's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
And I've seen, this makes me, I don't know, maybe the happiest about all that is, like, I've seen people who went from, or crafters that went from just making wallets to now they're dabbling into sneakers and shoemaking. They bought the sewing machine. They're like, so I'm really happy about that. And that goes along with that 3-pillar consumer life cycle thing.
Yeah.
So all of that. I think where we're headed, though, is from this group of kind of newly minted shoemakers, sneaker makers, there's going to be a group of folks there that decide that making sneakers is cool, but it's not for me. What I really enjoyed in that was designing and building a brand and attracting customers and doing something unique. And we're already seeing it a little bit with a few smaller brands, but there's going to be, I think, a rise of the independent sneaker brand pretty soon. And I think it's going to come from that. A lot of it is going to come from that group of designers that started as sneaker makers,
right?
Like as a hobby or small business. And so, we're already set up to a large extent to do some of that for them. But I want to take it to the next level to where I'm working with professionals in the industry, and I can connect these designers with those professionals.
Nice.
And maybe somebody wants to design a sneaker and release 50 pairs or 100 pairs, and I can help facilitate that and play a part in the rise of the independent sneaker brands.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
In its own right.
You're quite a giving guy, aren't you?
What's that?
You're quite a giving guy, aren't you, with your goals? Where do you think that comes from?
I don't know, man. It's I can't do this. I wouldn't be here without everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if I'm not, I don't know. I think some of it comes from me feeling like I sit next to everybody in this community, not over them.
That's cool.
So if I can, was it rising tide, or what is it? How's that saying go? Rising tide raises all ships.
Yep, rising tide raises all
it's been
ships.
said a few times, and it's so true.
Yeah. And I just wish everyone understood that. If everyone understood that, we'd be in a good position. Because ultimately, the more of those people that you facilitate, the more work comes into your shop to to do more of it, isn't it? It's only going to benefit you. So
If not that, other opportunities might present themselves that we could be poised to pursue. So, yeah.
Nice. We've took loads of your time today. We've obviously got a great walk round, so I don't want to take masses more.
I've got one more question.
Sure.
What advice would you give your younger self? When you're younger, what would you say to that person?
Really good question.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would probably be financial advice, but then my younger self would have rejected it. So I don't know. And I could have said, like, start the craft earlier, but I think this all timed up how it needed to time up for it to work. And also with the timing of Instagram's popularity and the platform being different when the algorithm was much different when I started. I could reach people easier.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it would be something really simple, just like pursue your passion, enjoy what you do.
That's a good answer.
And it's a recurring theme said in many different words, isn't it?
Yeah.
Different people use different words to say it, but it's the same that.
Just do you and do what you love.
Yep. So where do people find out more about you? Just to wrap it all up.
We are very active on Instagram.
Yep. That's your biggest platform, yeah?
Yeah, for sure. We have a Facebook page. But
this is just Instagram stuff that happens to post there as well. That's what ours is, yeah.
Maybe we'll get more into it. But District Leather Supply, all one word on Instagram. Then our website, districtleathersupply.com. And I do want to say one more thing about work-life balance.
Yeah, go for it.
That was kind of abbreviated.
Go for it,
but
anything else you want to cover, this is your time.
Awesome. I don't do the greatest job taking care of myself, and I think that's really important. And I just turned 41, and I start freaking out sometimes because, like, I don't know, when I feel my blood pressure spike or my heart rate go up, kind of get nervous. And I've got 2 daughters and a wife, and I want to make sure that I'm around as long as I can for them. So, I'm going to try to do better. I was going to the gym at least twice a week, 3 days a week for 2 years, seeing a trainer. Up until things got really complicated with the business, like 5 months ago. I need to get back to that. But I think for anybody to have a business like this or, dedicate this much time to something you care so much about that has this much kind of gravity and consequence on your life, you got to try to achieve some balance. And it's not an everyday balance. It's not like I'm going to spend this many hours. That's just not possible, I think. But some days for me, it's this week or these 2 weeks are going to be business 16 hours a day. I got to do that. And then I'm going to create some padding to have dedicated family time for like 3 days and completely block off everything else.
Yeah.
But I'm still struggling to get that exercise time in. But it's so important to even just to recognize that you need balance and not get too carried away with the business side of things.
Well, everything sits on your health, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you lose money, you can make more money. If you lose your health.
Well, that's why we started going to CrossFit. Because
I'm going to start sounding like a. The pair of us are going to start sounding like a bloody CrossFit salesman. You ever tried a CrossFit gym?
No.
It's
wicked.
Good.
Yeah.
It's
so
hard,
good.
but it's
because
good.
of the community that's there,
Yeah.
not because of the exercise you're doing. And I know some people bash it, and that's all fine. And we could argue to the cows come home about what's the best way to exercise, low cardio, HIIT stuff.
I think some of the exercises are really funny looking though.
Yeah, they are pretty funny looking.
It's good though.
But everything can be scaled down. You aren't a big gym person. You love it. Everything can be scaled down. You can concentrate. Like, I love the Olympic lifting and the barbell stuff. I hate the gymnastic stuff because I'm a big guy.
Yeah.
Like, all that stuff.
It's made me love fitness, and I didn't like fitness. But I love the community.
Because of the community around.
It's an hour a night. You go in, you come out, and actually you can go anytime. It's classes. You don't have to think about what you're doing. It's just a class. You do it for you. Turn up, do it, go home.
And if you don't, you meet a great community, and if you don't turn up for a few days, people will be texting you.
Like, where are you? Why are you not here today?
And you're like, shit, you're going to do fitness.
I think that's really important.
What I mean?
Yeah.
So if, for everything that you've given us today, if I could give you something back,
Try CrossFit.
it'd be go and try a CrossFit gym. Because if you
good for your
find a
mental
good one
health.
with a good community like we've found, just through luck, there's almost none around us. Well, there is none around us except one.
Yeah.
And we found some good guys.
I think the theme, though, not arguing, but is accountability, and whether that can be assisted by a group of friends or peers, or my trainer. I paid him for that, and like I felt this obligation. Like, I don't have much money to spend on stuff. Like, I'm gonna spend it on this. I gotta go. Like, and then he'll text me, where are you? You know, so having that accountability and like that was motivator to show up, and also personal progress. But anyway, the CrossFit, it's still funny in my mind. But it was all Olympic lifting when I did that, so that was fun.
Yeah,
that's all you do. You just
pretty
lift.
much all I do. I get roared at for the coaches because I just go in and squat like 5 times a week, max out all the time. And then Danny, who was a coach there, he was a part-time coach there and trains, and you should be doing progressive overload, you should be following a training plan. I'm like, nah man, I'm just going to squat today, it's all good. Like, I just do stupid reel when everyone's getting serious at the gym about computing. I just do stupid reels, I just squat. It's fucking great. But yeah man, I like it. I like the advice of look after yourself.
Yeah, and then I think one other thing that I've learned, humility, maybe there's a couple things. Humility goes a long way. Admitting when you screw up goes a long way too, and I find that with customers all the time. Like, I'm late on things, we screw something up. When I make a phone call, they really appreciate it, and there isn't much out there that wouldn't be forgiven without a sincere apology, or with a sincere apology.
Communication with your customers is huge.
Yeah, and I found too, it's not just with customers, with my vendors, with local government sometimes. Like, I screwed up, I totally missed this due date. I understand if there's a penalty or something, like, is there anything I could do? Like, just, I don't know. So things seem bleak sometimes. I don't know. We talked about like being in a huge debt hole with the machines and everything. Like, very few things are like truly catastrophic.
Yeah.
So just keep your head up when things get low, when the situation, or when you feel low, and just keep charging ahead.
Nice.
That was a good one.
That was loads of good advice. You said you didn't know what good advice to give, and you just gave loads of good advice. Wicked. Right. Bill, let's wrap it up at that. Yeah. Thanks so much for your time. I know you're a busy guy, and I know
this has been great.
You've had almost zero sleep.
Yeah.
So we'll wrap it at that. Yeah. Wicked.